Hey, everybody. Do you ever look at your life and you start thinking about the what ifs? What if I had done this? Maybe I should have done that. Could I have done this? Well, we're going to talk about that today. So sit back, relax, and let's get started.
Let's talk about it.
We got to start all over. Thank you, Mr. Veronica. My name is Wanda Elfla. I almost want to start this thing all over again, but I am not going to do that. Welcome to Have a Seat in My Chair, a spinoff. This is a spinoff. Let's talk about it with Wanda from Have a Seat in My Chair. Today, we are talking about the what ifs. That's what we're talking about. And that means that when I did my intro, nobody heard my intro, but it's all good. I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to delete it either. That just means I need to back up and start all over. No wonder people were coming in and coming out, and nobody even said, I can't hear you. It's all right. So let me just back up really quick. Today, we're talking about the what ifs. And we're looking at our lives and how the what ifs can affect us, right? Sometimes when we're looking at problems and situations and we're reviewing our lives, we look at it and we start thinking, well, what if I had done this? And maybe things would be different if I had done that. And maybe it could be good or bad because we have been faced with some bad situations because of decisions we've made, right? We've made some bad choices and we start to review those and think about what if? And then there's also the fact of there are some good things that have happened in our lives, right? We've had some promotions and we've done well and we've excelled well in the corporate world and on our jobs, but some of us had some dreams and some visions that we wanted to do. And sometimes we sit back and we look at those and we're like, well, what if I had, pursued the business that I wanted to have? What if I had done that? Would things be different? For me, sometimes I sit back and I review my life just as an example, and I think, what would things look like for me if I hadn't got married and started having children? Would I have been further in my career? Could I have been the hairstylist to the stars? Could I be teaching and doing hair internationally? The what ifs, we've all encountered the what ifs, right? Sometimes those what ifs can cause us to be stagnant and not move into the purpose and the plans that Yahweh has for us because we begin to condemn ourselves and we can't get out of the what ifs. So today, we're going to look at some what ifs. And what I was saying earlier is that I am who I am. This morning on Leslie's Lessons Learned, we talked about being our authentic selves. And I'm just who I am. I love Yahweh. And I cannot teach you anything without using his word. So to help me teach this lesson today, I'm going to pull some characters from the Bible, from the Writ, from Torah, and we're going and the Tanakh, and we're going to examine the what ifs, and it's going to help us to see the what ifs were necessary because Yahweh has a plan and a purpose for your lives. All right, so let's go. The first person we're looking at is Noah. He's the first person we're going to look at. Now, you know the story about Noah. Even if you aren't a Bible scholar, you know the story about Noah. You know that Noah was the one that Yahweh told to build the ark. It's going to rain. Now, I don't even know if they knew what rain was. I don't know if they even heard what rain was. But he told Noah, build the ark. It's going to rain. I'm sick of these folks. This is Wanda. I'm sick of these folks If you remember, we got Adam and Ishai, and there was the fall, and I'm over Ishai now. I used to be very mad, and me and her was gonna have a real serious talk when we got to heaven, and that probably wasn't gonna let me get in because I was coming for Eve. I was coming for Ishai. I was coming, and thank God for salvation and forgiveness. We talked about that this morning too. For forgiveness, because I was a little upset with her, and then a little upset with Adam as well. But we know the story. There was the fall, right? They got kicked out. They got booted. They got ejected from the Garden of Eden. So now they got to fend for themselves. They're on their own. They start to have children and procreate and fill the earth. But the problem is, we got Cain and Abel, and you remember what happened with Cain and Abel, and now we got a land that's wicked. Man, they was turned up for real, so much so that Yahweh was like, I'm sick of y'all. This is too much. I'm gonna need a reset. I can't do this no more. Y'all getting on my nerves so much. I'm so sick of y'all that I got to get rid of everything. I got to replenish the earth. I got to get rid of everything. So what he told Noah was, build this ark. Build this ark, it's going to rain. So Noah is building the ark, right? He's building the ark. People are looking at him. He's just being obedient. Building the ark. People looking at him like, you know what? What you doing? What are you building? What is that? I'm building the ark. What you doing that for? You don't see no big bodies right here, sir. You don't see no big bodies of water right here. What you doing? He said it's gonna rain. Rain? What? Man, we get a little dew in the morning. What is you talking about? What is rain? And I know Noah was looking crazy to the people. You know what? He might have even been looking a little crazy to his family. Ain't no telling. They walking by, they laughing, but Noah kept building because Yahweh told him to build the ark, right? They're laughing at him, but he kept building. They're talking about him. He kept building. They're still in their sin and their wickedness. Well, I should say wickedness. And he kept building. His family might have been questioning, I've been a little worried about Dad. He out there building that monstrous piece of whatever that thing is out there. He calls it ark. And I'm a little worried about him. Mom, you need to go check out your husband. Did he get some water today? What's going on? What is going on? Just leave your father alone. He said, Yahweh said, build the ark. That's what he doing. Leave him alone. Honey, you all right? Are you sunstruck out here? You sure you heard? I can imagine he was getting everything from everybody. But he kept building. And so finally, the ark is finished. And when the ark is finished, then he gets more instructions. You can read the story. There was a certain amount of clean animals to go in the ark, and a certain amount of unclean animals and creeping things. And then he told his family to go in the ark because he was wiping everything out, right? So the ark is finished. Everybody's in it. The doors close, and it begins to rain. You know the rest of the story. Everybody is wiped out. They have to start all over and replenish the earth. But what if? What if? What if his family hadn't gotten in the ark? Right? What if some of those people that didn't go, what if they had gone? Would the story be different? What if Noah has said, now, I don't know nothing about building no ark. Get somebody else to do it. Get somebody, Ablab, Mephibosheth down there, he's a great carpenter. I've seen his work. Why don't you ask him to do it? What if Noah had just give Yahweh pushback and didn't say yes and begin to build this ark? What would that have looked like, right? Oftentimes, we have things that we have to do, and they might be uncomfortable. And sometimes we'll look at it and be like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. But once you do it, You realize that there's a plan and a purpose, and there's no mistake in you doing it. And even if something did not turn out the way it was supposed to, even if you have had some situations in your life because of some choices that you made, that what if does not make your life stagnant. So there's no need to look at, well, what if I had done this and done that? When we look at Noah, what would have happened if he had said no? What would have happened if his family didn't go? We know what would have happened, but Yahweh had a plan and a purpose. So what did Noah do? He was obedient. He applied pressure and he got the job done. So in the interim, we realized that those people were wicked. They didn't listen to him and they got wiped out. We got a brand new, Yahweh did a reset, and now we have Noah and his family, and they have the charge to replenish the earth, right? And even in that, even in him replenishing the earth, we still got some wickedness after that. We still got some wickedness after that. So let's keep going. We're talking about the what ifs. The next person I want to talk about that is a good what if to look at is Ruth. I love the story of Ruth. If you remember Ruth was Naomi's daughter-in-law. Ruth was a Moabitess. And while I'm telling the story, everybody that's here that has joined me, I want to say shalom, welcome, and thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I'm trying to invite some people. But do me a favor, you guys go ahead and share this for me, because I do believe it is a message that is going to help someone today. And like I said, I'm not going to be long. I spent 15 minutes talking with the mic on mute. So you got to laugh, right? That just lets me know that this is a purposed message that evil didn't want to get out. But I'm not going to stop, because do I have time to worry about the what ifs? Well, what if I had taken my mic off? Now I done talked for 15 minutes. They missed my great introduction and all of that. We gonna keep on going, right? All right, let's look at Ruth. So Ruth was a Moabitess, right? She was married to one of Naomi's sons. Naomi had 2 sons. And if you remember the story, Naomi lost her husband. After she lost her husband, then she lost her 2 sons. And she's at this place where she's like, you know what? You guys, there's nothing else I can do for you. She's talking to her 2 daughter-in-laws. There's nothing else I can do for you. Nothing I can do. I don't have any more sons to give you. Look at me. Look at my age. We're not pushing out no more babies, y'all. We're not pushing out no more babies. So look, you need to go. You need to go. You need to live your lives. Go find another man. There are plenty of men out there that you young. You still got childbearing years. All that. You got good childbearing hips. Go find another man and get married and have children, right? And so she gives them that charge. And one of the daughter-in-law said, cool, love you, Naomi, I'm out. See y'all later, peace, right? She out, she leaves. But Ruth says, well, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stay right here. I'm gonna stay right here. I'm staying with you, Mama Ruth. I'm staying right here. Your God will be my God. Your people gonna be my people. Where you are, that's where I'm going to be. And so Ruth stayed with Naomi. She stuck to Naomi. Whatever Naomi told her to do, that's what she did. And so Naomi began to groom her and teach her and showed her what to do and how to help them live and survive. And if you remember the story, Naomi instructs her and tells her to go out. So Ruth goes out to this field. She tells her to go to the kinsman's field, and she goes out to the field and she begins to reap in the field and all of that. And she works hard. She's coming behind the reapers and she's working hard to bring something home to her now mother. And she does that. And when she gets back, her mother-in-law is like, how did you do? And she's like, I did good and whatnot. And let's just fast forward. So she keeps working. And so the owner of the field comes and he sees and he's like, who is that out there? I don't recognize her. Who is that? And they tell him who she is. And he knows her mother-in-law and all of that, and talks to his people and instructs them how to treat her and all of that. And so Naomi goes back, and we're just going to go through the story real quickly. But Naomi gives Ruth instructions on what to do and how to get Boaz, right? There is so much to this story, because even in that story, it is a story of redemption, and we can see our Messiah in that story as well. But the bottom line is Naomi instructs Ruth on what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, all of that, until she attracts the attention of Boaz. And once she does that, once Boaz sees what a hard worker she is, he gives his workers instructions to leave her son behind on purpose. Because what we don't understand is this was like the third glean of that field. And she was able to go out even in the third glean and still find something to take it back to Naomi. That's some serious stuff. She was literally a hard worker. And so then her mother-in-law helps her and instructs her, and she's obedient to her mother-in-law when it comes to the fact of Boaz. And let me tell you, everything her mother-in-law told her to do, it worked because she listened. But she had a part to play in that as well. She was a hard worker. She was obedient. She heard what her mother-in-law told her, and she followed her instructions. And then she was diligent. She was consistent. She was dedicated. And in that, she was blessed. Naomi was blessed. And in the end, Boaz married her. She had a son. That son ends up being in the bloodline of our Messiah, who comes through the lineage of Uda. Remember, she has Obed, and Obed is Jesse's father. And all of that, we get our lineage through this line. But what if she hadn't been obedient? What if she had decided, like the other daughter-in-law, yeah, I'm out. I got to go. I can't stay here. I love you. You've been good to us. You've been amazing. I appreciate you. But I can't do this. I don't know anything about these people. I'm a Moabite. I know. I loved your son. He's gone now. I want to be married again. So I'm gonna go back home to what's familiar to me. You brought me here, and I don't know nothing about these people. So no, I can't do this. What if she had decided to do that? What if she stayed, but she didn't do it the way her mother-in-law told her? Or what if she did go out and glean and work the field, but then the third time she decided, you know what? I've been giving this to my mother-in-law all this time. This time I'm going to go in town and sell this for myself, because, my garments is looking a little raggedy. I've been in this for a little while. It's about time for me to come out. I came out the sackcloth and ashes and all that stuff. I want to get me some new garments. What if she had decided to take it and sell it for herself? What if when her mother-in-law gave her the instructions on what to do with Boaz, what if she didn't follow those instructions to the T? What if? No, 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 no. What if Ruth was sitting there and as her mother-in-law is giving her instructions, she couldn't stop thinking about her husband who had died? What if she couldn't have come out of the mourning? What if she had let the grief overtake her and she couldn't imagine herself with somebody else? What if she had sat there and cursed Elohim, curse God, and be like, why did you take my husband? You took my father-in-law, you took my brother-in-law. Why'd you have to take my husband? What if she had sat there and waddled in that? And doesn't that sound like us? Doesn't that sound like us when we go through situations and circumstances in our lives, and instead of looking at it and learning the lesson from it, we sit and wonder, why did this happen? Why did I have to get a divorce? I got married. I loved them. Why didn't they love me the way that they were supposed to love me, or the way I loved them? Why did I have to go through the abuse? Why did I have to go through the rape? Why did I have to go through the molestation? Why did I have to lose my job? Why am I homeless? Why did all of this have to happen? And where would I be if this had not happened? Everything is a part of the purpose and the plan that Yahweh has for his life. And I want you to know today that we can't sit and waddle in the what ifs, because the what ifs came to make us. The what ifs came to strengthen us. The circumstances and the situations had to take place because there is a plan for your life. And he never told you what was going to happen from point A to point C. He didn't tell you what was in the middle. You just get plan A and you know there's a C. But the B part has to happen because that's the purpose and the plan for your life. So we can't sit and dwell in and waddle in and get stuck in the what ifs. The what ifs were necessary. When I say the what ifs, I mean the circumstances and the situations. So you can't get stuck there. What if it hadn't happened? What if I had done this? What if I had gone that way instead of that way? What if I had said no? What if I had said yes? All of it happened the way it was supposed to happen because of the plan and the purpose and the destiny on your life. You have a purpose and you have to get there. And so you need to come up out of the what ifs. You need to stop dwelling on the what ifs. You don't even need to contemplate and think about the what ifs. What you need to do is look at the word and apply the pressure of the word and begin to walk in your purpose. All right. I love the story of Ruth, but let's keep going. Everybody knows Esther. Everybody knows Esther, right? Esther, the one who was being raised by her uncle, the one whose parents were no longer there, and her uncle took on the responsibility of raising her. Esther, who was in the lineup, I'll put it that way, of the women that were being groomed to be queen, because Queen Vashti decided that she didn't like what was going down with the king and she cut out, right? So her uncle thought that she would be a great candidate to be queen. Isn't it amazing that a situation that could begin looking like it is detrimental to your life, it looks like gloom and doom. She lost her parents and she no longer has her parents, and she's being raised by her uncle. He is now basically a single parent. He's now a single dad. She doesn't have the comfort of having a mother to go to. She can't even talk to her real father. And for some, that looks like gloom and doom. And she could have sat in that, and I'm sure many times wondered, why did I have to lose my parents? Why aren't they here? I only have my uncle. I only have people that or they love me, but it's not my mother. It's not my father. I love my uncle, but he's not my father. What if she had gotten stuck in that? But instead, she didn't. She accepted the guidance of her uncle. She did what he told her to do. And when there was a call for a queen and they were putting these women together, her uncle saw the greatness in her. Her uncle saw the value in her. The uncle looked past her beauty because she was beautiful, but he saw the intelligence in her. He saw how he raised her. He saw how he reared her. He knew her better than anyone else. And he thought that she would be a great candidate to be reared and groomed and prepped and prepared to be queen. And we know the story. She went through the preparations of being queen. And when it came time, she was made queen. Yahweh be praised. I'm sure she could look over her life and think back, I never thought that this would happen for me. How many times have we started off and it wasn't looking so favorable, it wasn't looking so good, and then somewhere along the line Yahweh turns things around and it begins to become favorable for her, right? And so now she's queen. Woo! I've gone for being just little Esther, just my uncle's niece, him being like my dad, and now I am queen of the kingdom. Can you imagine? But now something arises in the kingdom, and there is this man who hates Jews. He hates them. And unfortunately, I won't say unfortunately, Esther falls in that category. So being a Jew, she's raised with the Torah. She knows the word and all of this. And now this problem, this situation comes before her. Her uncle brings this dilemma. Her uncle brings this situation to her because she's queen. And he says, if anybody can save your people, Esther, it's you. And she's like, wait a minute, hold up. Why are you putting all this on my head? It's just me. I'm just the way I see it. Y'all work with me, come with me. Why are you bringing all this to me? Is there anything I can do? I'm merely queen. I'm not the king. And her uncle tells her, yes, but you've come to the kingdom for such a time as this. I want you to know that every circumstance, every situation in your life is for a purpose. I can't say that enough. Even when it doesn't look like that, even when you don't see the blue skies, it all looks dark, gray, gloomy. Matter of fact, it looks dark for you. There is a purpose and a plan for your life, and he is preparing you for that purpose. Oh, goodness. Esther had no idea what the plan for her life was. It didn't start out the best, but here she is, queen. She's like, man, I didn't even expect that. Now I'm queen and it's all good. I got servants. I'm living a life. I'm living large and in charge and all of this. And she knew her place and all, she knew it. And now here comes her uncle with this situation where lives are depending on her. They wanted everybody that was a Jew to die. It was a decree that was gone out that if they were a Jew, that they were trying to get rid of them. Her uncle brings this to her and he says, perhaps you came to the kingdom for such a time as this. And what if Esther, let's look at the what ifs. What if Esther has said, no, get somebody else to do it. No, I'm not the woman for the job. No, surely there's another reason why I got this position and this ain't it. But no. Yahweh knew why she was chosen. Yahweh planned the whole thing when she was formed in her mother's womb. Yahweh already knew how this was going to play out. Yahweh had already had a plan for this situation. And guess what? Her uncle and Esther and everybody in play was in place to work this out so that Yahweh would get the glory for his people. And he was going to use little Esther, Esther who lost her parents, Esther who was raised by her uncle, Esther who is now in the palace, not even sure if she can make a difference. Esther, who doesn't even want to take on the responsibility, is looking at herself and saying, wait, do I have what it takes? Am I qualified? Do I have the abilities to make this come to pass? And she looks and she evaluates and she thinks about it. And she said, well, if I perish, let me perish. Tell the people to go on a fast. And so they went on a fast. The amount of time that on this fast, right? And she knows how this can happen. She knows that she can lose her life behind that. That's just how serious it was. But her people were at stake. Yahweh's people, right? And so you know the story. She tells her husband, she knows, she's like, if I don't get the permission to come before him, it can be the detriment of me. And so she goes and she's waiting for him to extend the scepter to her. And he sees her with her gorgeous self. And like, girl, what you want? And he extends the scepter to her. And she asks to make a dinner for, these specific important people. And the man that wants to, that has the plan out, for her people, she invites him. And she gets to this dinner and she begins to tell the story about somebody wanting to do harm to the people. And, because it was a risk for her because he didn't know what her ethnic background was. That's why she said, if I perish, let me perish. And you know how the story goes. She tells him the story. And in the end, he passes a decree that they were safe. And the very man that wanted her people dead and had it out for her uncle, because he actually made gallows to hang her uncle on. The very one that wanted her uncle dead, that was the very one that ended up being hung on those gallows. And he wanted to know, you got to go read it because I am paraphrasing, but the very position that man had was given to her uncle. And they rode him through the town, and he was made a great man. And Esther saved her people. But what if Esther just couldn't get past the fact of losing her parents? What if Esther couldn't get past the fact that her uncle was raising her? What if Esther had just said, you know what, this is too big of a charge for me. I'm going to pray for my people. I'm going to pray that Yahweh bring them out. He do something for them. But he let her know, if they die, you're going to die too. Because, what if she had not taken that charge? I'm so grateful that Esther didn't get stuck in the past. I'm so grateful that Esther did not get stuck in the what ifs. I'm so grateful that when it was presented to her, she didn't let fear, because she was afraid of what could happen to her. She was afraid what would happen if he found out she was Jew. She was afraid what would happen if he didn't extend that scepter to her. She was afraid. But what if she hadn't taken the charge? Where would those people be? What would have happened? I guarantee you today that many of us have looked over our lives and have examined those what ifs. I know I have. Whether those were good choices or those were bad choices. And I want you to know that even in the bad choices, they were working out for your good. What the devil meant for evil, Yahweh meant it for good, because he knew you before you were in your mother's womb. Before he formed you, he knew you. That means he knew everything about you. That means he knew you down to your fingerprints. That means he knew your end. The Bible says he worked out the end before the beginning. That means he knew what your purpose and your plan was. And even though it might not look favorable to you, even though you might be looking at yourself right now and saying, I should be a lot further than I am. I want you to know there was a purpose and a plan in everything that you have faced, everything that you have gone through. Even if it was bad, it was for your making. It was to shape you, mold you, and help you to learn the lessons so you wouldn't make that mistake again. It was to help shape you and make you so that you could teach one along the way. It was to shape you and make you and give you the testimony that you have now, that I was in this, but Yahweh brought me out. I was in this, but Yahweh snatched me out. I was like this, but Yahweh changed my heart. I was a booger. I was a mess. I was angry. I couldn't forgive. And if it was not for Yahweh, where would I be? We might have the what ifs, but I want you to know that he has a purpose. He had a plan. You have a destiny. So you might as well apply pressure and work that thing out. Come on, everybody. We got one more and we're going to get out of here. One of the very last what ifs I want us to look at, and it might be the most important of all, and that would be our Messiah. Now, there are many examples from Torah, Tanakh, to the Brit Hadessa. That's from Torah, the first 5 books, from Deuteronomy to Malachi, and then through the New Testament, right? There are many examples of the lives of people that has circumstances and situations that we could actually view and could look at and say, what if they hadn't? First one comes to mind is Noah. And he tried to get out of it. But what if even after that whale spit him up, he still didn't go and do what Yahweh told him to do? What if he had stuck in the reasons why he didn't want to do it? But he had a purpose and a plan. Yahweh had a purpose and a plan. He had a destiny. And so I'm grateful that even though he had to go through all that stuff, why am I grateful? Because I have the story. I have the example that shows me a real life example of somebody that doesn't always want to do what Yahweh tells them to do. I have an example of somebody that doesn't always want to go when Yahweh says go. Because, a lot of us, go, send me. Who is that? That said, here I am. I can't think right now. Here I am. Here am I, Yahweh, send me. It was either Isaiah or Jeremiah, one of them. Here I am, send me. Right? Not everybody has that story. And Jonah is one of those that's like, yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm good. I'm good. Esther was one, yeah, I'm good off that. I'm cool. But she had a reason too. She didn't want to lose her life, right? But Noah was like, yeah, no, I'm not going because they ain't worthy. They don't need your forgiveness. They not worthy of salvation. We can be saved, but yeah, not them, no, they not worthy of it. He didn't want to go. And that's why I love the word so much. That's why I love all the testimonies past the writ, past Torah, the testimonies that we read, because we have so many examples, real life, applicable examples that we can use for our lives. And Facebook, I'm sorry, I can't see your comments. So if you're commenting, once this is over, I will go back and like them. But I thank you, everybody that is here, that has joined. And if you are commenting, I appreciate you. If you shared this, I appreciate you. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, I appreciate you. If you are now following me on Facebook, I appreciate you. But let's keep going. I appreciate all the stories that we have, the testimonies that we have in the Bible, because they show me life. And I can see myself in these stories. When I'm discouraged, I can find a story of somebody that was discouraged. When I need encouragement, I can go and find something there that will give me a word of encouragement. When I'm sick, I can find stories of people that were sick and they were healed. When I need stories of people getting promotion and Yahweh promoting them, I have stories that I can go to that will show me when Yahweh promoted them. And he says promotion doesn't come from, it comes from him. While we worried about man promoting us, promotion comes from him. And so everything about my life, I can find it in the Bible. And so even when we think about these what ifs that we go through, what if? What if? What if? I want to tell you today that there's no need to worry about the what ifs, because the what ifs were intentional. Those things that you went through, those things that you faced, whether good or bad, some that you viewed that were just detrimental to you, some that you view now that have had a triggering effect on you, some which were good that gave you greater things in life, but sometimes you look back and wonder, if I had done that, or if I had done this, or if I'd done this sooner, would I be further? Nope. I want you to know you are right where you are supposed to be, because he had a purpose and a plan for each and every one of you. And everything that has happened, that has played out in your life, was not a mistake. It wasn't a happenstance. And even though you might have played a part in it, it still was a part of his plan. Some of the things we didn't play a part of it. And some of them might seem unfair, but it still was a part of the plan. Come on, let's look at the very last one. Yeshua, my Savior, my Redeemer, my Deliverer, my strong tower, my everything. Let's look at our Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. So let's look at him. One situation in particular that I want us to look at is when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane. That's it. That's an important situation because it's right after they had the meal of Pesach, which is the Passover meal. And they go out. They're actually in a place that is called the Garden of Gethsemane, but it is actually a place where olives grow. And there is an olive press there. And so that's where olives are pressed there. That's a whole nother story by itself. But Yeshua goes and he takes 3 with him, right? Sons of thunder. He takes them and with him and he says, you guys stay right here while I go yonder and pray. I'm going to pray. I'm going to talk to my Father. And he goes and he prays and he says, Father, you know the hour. He knows the hour is coming, right? And he's saying, if there's another way we can do this, if there's another way, perhaps we can do this. If somebody else could do it, because I don't know if I'm digging this plan that we got. I'm having second thoughts. Anybody has some second thoughts about doing something? I don't know if I want to go through this. So if it be your will, let this cup pass from me. And he goes and he prays. And he comes back and they're asleep. And he's like, look, wake up. Can't y'all pray for me just like an hour? Can't y'all pray with me? Oh, yeah. We weren't asleep. We was just resting our eyes. We was resting our eyes. And he goes and he prays again. And he's praying. He's praying, y'all. He's praying. And he's praying, and he's talking to the Father about what he's about to face. And he comes again, and man, they still sleeping. And he goes and he prays one more time. But before he goes, he said, you know what? Sleep on. It's no big deal. Just go on. And he goes, and it talks about how hard he prayed. He prayed so that he sweated drops of blood. And when he comes out this time, he says, Father, not my will, but your will be done. I want you to know that each time he went to pray, he was not getting the answer. They didn't need to answer. There was no need for anybody to say anything, because there was a purpose and a plan. The Son of Elohim came so that he might die for our sins, so that we could have the right to eternal life. There was a plan and a purpose. When the Son of Elohim said, prepare me a body so that I can go down. If we go to Isaiah 6:9-6, it says, unto us a child was born, that's Yeshua, and unto us a son is given, that's the Son of Elohim. So there was a plan. And if you go to Hebrews 10, it talks about prepare me a body so that I can go down, because the sacrifices for sin are not working anymore, that it's not satisfying the need. So prepare me a body to go down. I will be the sacrifice so that it will forgive them of their sin, because up until that point, our sins couldn't be forgiven. Our sins could only be over. They couldn't be forgiven. They would put the priest would put his hands on the scapegoat, and the scapegoat would take them away, but they didn't forgive you of your sins. And so Elohim realized there needed to be something different. And so he sent his son in the body of Yeshua. He came down and he took on a body to give his life for us, so that you could now be forgiven for your sins. But what if Yeshua has said, no, I changed my mind. I ain't doing this. What if Yeshua had said that? What if he decided he didn't want to? What if when the soldiers, when the Levites came, when the Sadducees and the Pharisees and the Levites came to arrest him, what if he had let those with him, he let them loose on them and let them attack, because those who was with him could fight? We remember Peter pulled out his sword and cut an ear off. What if Yeshua said, have at it, work that out, because they came to get me and I ain't feeling none of this? What if? But no, there was a purpose and a plan. There was a purpose and a plan. Literally at the Passover meal, at the Pesach meal, he could have stopped Udas and told him, I know what you about, dude. You might as well here, because it ain't going down like that. What if, let's go all the way back to after he was baptized and he was led up into the wilderness to be tempted by Satan. What if he had decided to go back and forth with Satan and not give him the word? What if? Where would we be? Where would we be if he had given up in the garden? Where would we be if he decided, I don't want to take on the charge no more, it's too much? Where would we be if he decided, I don't want to be beat the way they're going to beat me? What if he decided, I don't want to be beat with the cattails the way they're going to beat me? I don't want to be abused the way they're going to beat me. I don't want to be spit on the way they're going to spit on me. I don't want to be denied by Peter the way they're going to deny, the way he's going to deny me. What if he decided, I don't want none of this? I changed my mind. But the word on the inside of him would not let him give up, because there was a purpose and a plan. That the word had a purpose and a plan. There was a prophecy that had to be fulfilled. And it wasn't about Yeshua. It was about the purpose and the plan. The word that had gone forth that had to be fulfilled. So I tell you that we have the right to salvation today, because he stuck with the plan, because there was a purpose. And that purpose wasn't even about him. That purpose was about you and me, so that we could be forgiven of our sin. And now we have the nerve to sit and look over our lives and get stuck in the things that we have gone through and faced and went through, and look at, well, what if I hadn't done this? I wouldn't be here. And what if I hadn't taken that? I wouldn't be here. And what if I hadn't sold drugs? And what if I hadn't taken the coke? What if I hadn't become a crackhead? What if I hadn't got married and had the baby at 21 after I was raped? What if I hadn't got married at an early age and had all these babies, and then I couldn't work my career the way I wanted to? What if I hadn't dropped out of school and paid attention to school and took it more seriously? What if I hadn't let the depression overtake me? Would I be so much further now? What if I had made different choices for my life? Where would I be now? We don't have time to sit and dwell on the what ifs, because the what ifs were purpose for your life. The what ifs, the things that we have gone through, the things that we have faced, the things that he has brought us through, the things that he designed to make us, is what determines and is determining who you are now. Some of you are stronger than you've ever been before. Some of you have confidence that you never had before. Some of you understand this word better than you've ever understood before. Why? Because of the circumstances and the situations that you have come through that have made you. So you don't have time to sit and marvel and contemplate over the what ifs, because those what ifs were destined for your life. So before you sit back and start thinking about your past and what you've gone through, and you start questioning it, turn that around and tell Yahweh, thank you for everything that has evolved in my life. Thank you for every situation that I faced that you brought me through. Thank you for everything that has transpired in my life, whether good or bad. Thank you, because you know me better than I know myself. And if I had my way, I wouldn't have gone through any of that. But you knew what it was going to take to get me to where I am today. And so for this, I say thank you. And so now that we've gone through the lesson, now that we've looked at Noah, now that we've looked at Ruth, now that we've looked at Esther, and now that we've looked at Yeshua, and now that we've looked at our lives, it's time to apply pressure and walk this thing out. Walk out your purpose, walk out your destiny, and allow Yahweh to lead you everywhere you go. This is Wanda L. Floyd, and you are in Let's Talk About It with Wanda, where we have discussed the what ifs. I hope that this lesson has been beneficial to you. I hope it has been wonderful and life applicable for you. I hope that you will take something away that will enhance your week going forward. I hope that there is something here that you will be able to take away and help somebody in their life see that there's a purpose and a plan for you. So don't worry about what happened in the past, and don't even consider the what ifs, because it was for your making. You grow from it and you use it. And so that's what we're going to do. We've grown from it, we're going to use it, and we're going to apply pressure. And so until next week, meet me here next week. We were here early today because I got to go out and do something. It's my dad's birthday. Happy birthday, Daddy. Happy birthday, Daddy. Carl McCready, I love you with everything within me. You are a wonderful man, and I am so grateful to have you as my dad. So we're going out to celebrate him. I got to get out of here because I got to go all the way across town so we can have dinner. But meet me here next Sunday, 4 p.m., as we have another lesson. That's 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central, I believe, as we have another lesson on apply pressure. And until then, have a wonderful week. You are amazing. So walk in it and make sure you are applying pressure. Take care and shalom.